Our topic now is good opening preparation. Good opening preparation means when we know everything we play very well, we feel comfortable in there, and most importantly, we try to squeeze as much as we can out of the opening. We try to do the best we can. If it takes many hours of home preparation, we try to squeeze as much as we can. It's like a poker game. Sometimes you have good hands, sometimes you have bad hand, and you try to take full benefits of good hand. So when you play white, that will refer as a good hand, you try to get maximum advantage, and when you play black, you have to try to at least equalize the game. Now, when you play, you don't try to stay out of trouble only with white. You have to try for initiative, for some concrete kind of advantage, but that requires a lot of work at home. Let's look at some examples. King's Indian, Zamish variation, and a number of years ago, before Zamish variation was updated, Bishop E3, Knight D7 was the main move in this position. So black plays Queen D2, C5, Knight to E2, this was very popular for white, A6, white castles long, Queen A5, King to B1 and B5. Now this is very ambitious way for black to play. They want to try, they are trying to immediately attack white's king and open files on queen side. Obviously, white has to try exactly opposite. They play Knight D5, and here what black is facing now. You see the black's queen is hanging. Now, if black plays queen takes D2, then they will lose the pawn on E7, knight takes E7 check, king H8, and rook takes D2. Now this is just an extra pawn for white. But what I'm trying to show in this position is, suppose black did not play B5, and even after they did play B5, knight D5, let's say for example that after queen takes D2, white does not have knight takes E7 check, and they can simply play rook takes D2. Does black want this position to play as after B5? No, this position is approximately equal, maybe slightly better for white. So what black did, they went B5. Of course they saw knight D5. Actually, the black was dull played with black. It's the first thing that will come to your mind, knight D5 move. And here he immediately answered with knight takes D5. Now this is very odd move. Black is sacrificing the queen. Now here is what white can do. White can simply take the queen. That's mainly the variation we will be analyzing, or just to play CD. Now if they play CD, black can go queen takes D2, rook takes D2, and that would have been the best continuation for white. That's what white should have done. And now black has choices between C4 or maybe C takes D. In both cases with okay position for white. But after knight takes d5, white decided that queen sacrifice is overly ambitious and not justified. So they played queen takes queen and knight takes e3. Now we see, let's evaluate position. All black has is two minor pieces for queen. That's clearly not sufficient compensation. But rook is hanging on d1. And after rook moves, black is going to play knight takes c4. So let's see what happened. Rook c1 and knight takes c4. Here, for the first time, white spent a lot of time in this position, and after long thinking they played rook takes c4. Now let's assess this position and let's see why white played rook takes c4. And we are talking about grandmaster playing with white. Obviously white can just simply play queen e1, but then black would play pawn takes pawn on d4. Now black has two minor pieces and two pawns. And that's not all they have. They have a lot more than that. They have this extremely powerful bishop on g7, which may open after d3. They have very strong knight on c4, an outpost on e3 for the knight, and the other knight is coming to c5. Now, if you look unit-wise, that's not why black is not too much material down. Two pawns and two minor pieces. It's white here, I think, simply busted. Well, for instance, if white goes b3, it's hard to tolerate this knight on c4. After b3, there is a possible knight a3 check, and after king b2, maybe b4 move followed by d3 check. It's awful position for white. So what happened? What happened in this position? Knight takes c4, rook takes c4, b takes c, and now white's material advantage is minimal, but their position is terrible. They have undeveloped pieces, and b file is open, overwhelming pressure on b2 square. White is simply lost, and they did lose. So what can we say about this example? This is very ambitious approach by black. When they played b5, that's when they made decision. They will sacrifice the queen. So this position was widely analyzed in those years, and people did not play b5 because they knew that knight d5 is kind of a threat, and this systematic threat when queen is on a5, queen on d2, when actually it happened several times in accelerated Draken 2, the opening that I play frequently. When king moves on b1, that means that after knight d5, queen cannot take queen with the check, so white has an in-between move, knight takes pawn check. So this is kind of a threat, and playing b5 and ignoring this so-called big threat is very, very ambitious approach. So it's good evaluation of black's dynamics here. And after knight d5, knight takes d5, only move white could play here was cd. Queen takes a5 is really, really bad. So, and after knight takes e3, I would say here white's position is very bad. So now let's look at different example. When in English opening, this is also theory. I have played this position several times. c4, e5, knight c3, knight f6. Actually, most of the time it starts with c5. c4, c5, knight c3, knight f6. g3, d5, c takes d, knight takes d5, bishop g2, knight c7, knight f3, knight c6, d3, e5. You can reach this position even if you start at c4, e5. There are several ways to get to this position. White castles, black plays bishop e7, and here white can play quietly the way normally this kind of position played, like a3, bishop e3, rook c1 or rook b1 and trying for b4, or played a lot more ambitiously, and that's what they should do, because that's why you have white. Now this position is kind of closed. The advantage of you having white, that means you have an extra tempo. In a lot of variations, extra tempo results to gives you incentive for initiative, to play for initiative. So knight d2 is the move. Now the normal move is bishop d7. Castling I would not recommend. This castling was played against me once by Timon, a Dutch grandmaster, and I had very good position after that, and I won. I played bishop takes c6, pawn takes c6, and knight went to c4, very strong position, and then after that I went e4 and f3, so I defended my light squares, and black's pawn structure turned out to be a big problem for them. So according to theory, the correct move is after knight d2, bishop d7, to stop doubling the pawns, to stop bishop takes c6. Now we go knight c4, and that's another good way to see how can both sides in the same opening, in the same position, play for initiative. Now white is threatening bishop takes knight, bishop takes bishop, and then to win a pawn on e5. This is a threat. And this is perfect example to show how can one play, one can have ambitious approach in the opening. What can black do? The main move for decades was f6 here, to protect obviously e5 pawn and castle right after that. And what happens here, after f6, white finds the way to develop very strong initiative. f4. You see now they're again attacking the e-pawn. And what can black do here? If they play e takes f, that may be very bad for them, because then bishop takes f4, and white has tremendous initiative. Now if they castle, there may be queen b3. If they don't castle and they play knight e6, maybe knight d6 check. And black's position all of a sudden become very dangerous because all white's pieces are very active. What black can play here is b5 first, attacking white's knight, and when white moves back, then take on f4. What I mean by that, and on this move, e takes f, g takes f, and then castle. Actually, g takes f is a okay move, and this is the theoretical move, and it says white has some advantage, and I agree with that. But there, I had this position once in a tournament game, and I did not recapture on f4. What I did is I played knight f5. This is even more ambitious move than already ambitious variation. In already ambitious variation. Knight f5 attacking g7 pawn. My idea is to recapture on f4 with a bishop. Of course, bishop takes f5 is not so good because bishop takes c6 check. So, and when black castles, then I can play either knight takes e7, queen takes e7, bishop takes f4, and I have very good position, or even immediate bishop takes f4. And when bishop takes f5, then bishop takes c6. So in both cases, white has, and not to mention there is queen b3 check upcoming. In both cases, white has a very strong initiative. Now, why did I say before that both sides can play for initiative? How can black play for initiative? Well, we're getting to that point. In this position, when white just played knight c4, and I mentioned that white wants to play bishop takes c6, and after black recaptures with a bishop, then knight takes e5. Black can totally ignore it. Black castles, and white wins a pawn. This already happened once in the game. Bishop takes c6, knight takes e5, and now bishop e8. This was already played once against me, and I was not very happy with white. I don't remember what happened in a game, what was the result of the game. But normally when people say, I don't remember what was the result, you know it wasn't very good. So I don't think I won. I would have remembered that. So bishop e8, and what is the black's idea? Black's idea to kick the knight from d6 by playing bishop d6 in future and come back to c6 with a bishop. Now they are pawn down, they have very powerful piece on c6. Maybe the better way to kick this knight from e5 is bishop f6, then to go bishop c6 and so forth, or even play f5 and f4 and later kick the knight from e5 and play bishop c6. Now this is a very ambitious way. You see how both sides can play for initiative. Initiative is the soul of the game. You know, in today's chess, in advanced chess, so initiative decides when we play for initiative, and if we do succeed without big positional damages, we hold the initiative. In a lot of cases, it results into winning material or getting positional advantages on some ways to redeem this initiative. So let's go back and let me show you how can ambitious approach for initiative can be ambitious approach can turn into a very strong attack on the king. e4, e6, d4, d5. Very well known advanced variation of French. And after c5, knight f3. Now this is not a common move. The common move and the most popular move is c3. Knight f3 today is known as very speculative, provocative move, because after knight c6, white has now last chance to turn into regular position, but they go bishop d3, c takes d, and castle. Now, white sacrificed the pawn. Their problem is not the pawn. They are down a pawn, but it's not really a big problem because extra pawn on d4 does not decide this game. White's main problem is that e5 pawn became weak because d4 pawn disappeared. White's d4 pawn I'm talking about. So now it's black's move, and suppose black goes queen b6 or bishop c5. So let's go queen b6. Now we go rook e1, and now black has to decide how to place these minor pieces. They want a castle eventually. So they decided to put the bishop on c5 and knight on e7, which is a very reasonable idea. If white goes a3, they will go a5 to stop b4. After a3, you don't want to go knight e7 and get your bishop trapped. So obviously you go a5. And now white has to develop knight d2, knight e7, knight f1, bishop d7, knight g3, castle. This is dangerous now. You are not going to see too many people castle because right now white has typical sacrifice. It's a standard sacrifice here, which will win the game in this case. King takes, knight g5, and after king back, queen h5. So before black castles, they will play knight g6. Now this looks perfectly safe for black. They have an extra pawn, their king is safe, and they are about to castle. What's the problem? There is a problem. White played ambitiously. Now let me explain. If black just let white do anything they want, and in this case they did, how dangerous it may be, and what should black do not to allow position we have on the board now. Problem with the position we have now is knight h5 move, and when black castles long, here white has deadly combination, deadly shot. It starts with bishop h6 move. Now bishop h6 move in this case is very deadly because if pawn takes on h6, you may say we go knight f6, king h8, and knight takes d7 and fork, and we win material. But let's say for a second that in this position, black's bishop is not on c5. Suppose black's bishop is on with knight on h5, black's bishop on e7. They could think about the system the software I'm using now is I can put pieces on any positions and any time I want. I want to just show you what can be the result of this variation if black totally neglects white's initiative. Still bishop h6 is winning. So that means the problem in this position with bishop on c5, the problem is not knight f6 check and knight takes d7. That's one of the problems, but that's not the main problem. Even with bishop on e7, after taking, white is winning. White is winning by playing queen c1 or queen d2. And you see black cannot stop queen takes h6. Well, that's how it may end. King h8, queen takes h6. Now, after rook g8, we can go knight f6, threatening mate on h7. If bishop takes f6, pawn takes f6. And next move is coming to knight g5. So this is really, really bad for black. Black is actually getting mated. That's how bad it is. Okay, so what did white do here? Let's go from very beginning. White plays this game. They started from very beginning to play just for mate. Just for mate. When you play e4, e6, d4, d5, e5, c5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop d3, cd, and we totally ignore the fact that we lost the central pawn, when would you do that? Only when you go for something much bigger than pawn. So a castle. And now let's see what could have happened if black played correctly. Black has to realize that the fact that they have an extra pawn is not going to win them the game by itself. The way they have to be, the biggest problem is e5 pawn for white, which I already mentioned. Knight e7 should be played, rook e1, and knight to g6. That's a good position for knight. Okay, knight to d2. I would go f6 now to immediately take advantage of e5 pawn. White must take on f6. There is no other move because e5 pawn is hanging. Pawn takes, now pawn takes. And when knight moves back to f1, then black can connect those pawns, or even play bishop d6 first. Eventually they're going to connect these pawns, and it's very difficult for white to do something to prevent black from castling, in this case, probably the queen side. Something like bishop d7, queen c7, and castling queen side. Because white's pieces are not prepared for really active operations here. So black is in a good health here. So now let's go back and we will take a look at one position that was very well known, that is very well known in a modern theory. e4, c5, knight f3, g6, or knight c6. It doesn't matter. It's d4, cd, knight takes d4. Move order is not as important. This is accelerated Draken, one of the positions that I highly recommend to play for black. Bishop c4, queen a5, castle, and we castle. Now, bishop b3 is a normal move, d6 is okay, h3, every move till now is very much the best for both sides. Bishop d7, and here white has a choice. They can go rook e1, which for years this move was known as best, and they can go f4, which is considered to be best in and nowadays. So let's look at both of them. Rook e1, formerly the best move. Rook c8, knight d5, and this was known as slightly better for white. The assessment of this position and evaluation is clearly wrong, because move that black can play was not anticipated. Rook e8 is a very strong move, and now we see that e4 pawn is hanging. It's interesting that in such a so-called quiet looking position, move like f3 that simply protects white's e4 pawn is nearly losing move. It's hard to tell that here position explodes all of a sudden and the white is lost. Here, knight takes d5, pawn takes d5, knight takes d4, bishop takes d4. And here, black has decisive shot. Queen takes e1 check. Queen takes e1. Bishop takes d4 check. King has to move. And bishop takes b2. Now this is totally lost for white. And give me a second to explain why. Quickly. Rook to b1 or rook to d1 will not make much difference. Black plays bishop c3. Queen moves to e2 or f2. It's not really important. And now we go pawn to b5. This move completely kills the bishop on b3. Bishop on b3 turns into a pawn, which gives you huge material advantage. Bishop on b3 will never get into the game. Then you can play, later on you can play king f8 to protect the pawn and free the rook and go rook c8, rook c5, and rook c8, maybe bishop f6, and push the a pawn. Black's position is easily and absolutely winning. Now let's go to the original position of this opening, which is when white played rook e1, and which is not a very good move. This is position where white played rook e1. Now the best move is f4. That's known. And one of the better moves is queen h5. And I developed this variation when I was the coach for Gata Kamsky in the World Championship matches. After queen h5, the best move for white is queen d3. And now b5. I don't want to get into big details. Why is it bad to take on b5? White has three ways to take on b5. Knight d takes b5, knight c takes b5, or queen takes b5. If you want to see this opening analyzed in details, you can get my tape, which is called Accelerated Draken. And the best move in this position after b5 is knight f3. And now we go a5, and white goes a3. And just before this was prepared for Kamsky's match against Anand and against Short, and we won both games. We practically won in home analysis. What happened here in the games that were played before our preparation? Black has never played b5. a4. In all of the games that were played before that match, everybody played a4, and b4 simply was referred as a bad move because of knight e2, with the idea of knight g3, and black queen is in a lot of trouble, which is 100% truth, but partially true, that black queen is in trouble. Black queen is in trouble, but white is in a bigger trouble. So whole game is trouble here. So now knight e2, and it's not good to take on b4 because then black takes with the knight on b4 and they have very good position. So knight e2, this position that was known as bad for black is very good for black. Pawn takes a3. And now black's queen is in a lot of trouble, but black has in every variation that they have winning position. Knight to g3, and here we play pawn takes b2. Now this position is winning. Again, I don't want to spend too much time analyzing this position because it's analyzed completely on my tape. Let me go quickly through the variations just to make my point. Taking the queen is not a good idea because black plays pawn takes on a1, turning into a queen, and now white must recapture on a1 because if knight takes f6, then queen takes f6. So rook takes a1, knight takes h5. Black has rook, minor piece, and the pawn for queen. White rook is hanging, very strong, pass pawn on a5, knight b4 and a4 is going to be next move. White is totally busted. So taking queen is not good. Fine. Then, in this case, rook has to move. And white has only two places to move rook, to b1 or to a4. They're both losing. Rook b1 is losing because black simply plays here knight b4 and attacking white queen. Now white must take black's queen and cannot retreat his queen, because if white queen moves, then black has a square for the queen. They save queen, they have material advantage, game is over. So white must take on h5, black takes on d3, now white takes on f6 with a check, bishop takes f6, pawn takes d3, white has an extra piece and totally lost position. a4, attacking the bishop, must go to a2, a3. Now what black wants to do is to go bishop e6, exchange bishops, and then they're going to have as many queens as they want. So that's not good. This is forced and not good. So only one move left is rook a4, which loses as well. And that's the only case when we do retreat our queen. And now this is very, very unusual position, and it's kind of funny the way game ends here. f5, and finally black's queen is trapped. That was the original idea for white, to play knight e2, knight g3. Black traps the queen and loses the game. Here is why. g5. In order to trap the queen, bishop has to take on g5. And now after knight e5, it's all over. And why? If white plays knight takes c5, black plays queen takes g5. So they have to move the queen and protect the bishop. If queen goes to e3, or d2, it doesn't really matter, it's the same thing. Queen e3, knight takes f3. White has pawn on g2, rook on f1, queen on e3. 3 ways to capture, but any way they capture, they lose on the spot. If pawn captures, then we take on h3, and queen is out. If queen captures, we take bishop on g5, and if rook captures, we're gonna make another queen on b1. So that's not good. None of these variations are acceptable, and king cannot move either, because we're simply gonna take this bishop with a queen or with a knight. So white is lost in every variation. Now, why do I show this continuation and on the tape that is called ambitious approach to critical variations? Because I spend many, countless hours analyzing this position, and I was very ambitious. I just tried to play this position. I liked it very much, and I wanted to turn in a very good position for black. I was very ambitious, and it took me, I cannot tell you how many hours it took me to come to this conclusion. And I wanted to get maximum out of black's position. Of course, I could have moved the queen back all the way without going to h5, or play a4 instead of b4, and then I would have gotten the same position that was played. Actually, Kamsky lost one of these games before our preparation to Polgar by playing a4 instead of b4. So I could have just stood with the same evaluation, and I could go with the flow, and then evaluation would never have changed. But ambitious approach has to be based on many hours of analysis, or you have to do your own research to come to conclusion that white is lost. I did use computer programs, and they were telling me that I'm in a bad shape. Well, but the way it works with computers, they cannot tell you what is happening in quick evaluation. You have to feed them ideas, and you have to confront them, and you have to question their evaluations. And finally, they're going to get you to where you want to get. So that shows you once more how dangerous it is to rely on opening evaluations on very well-known games. If game played by two strong grandmasters, I know definitely they played their best. But that's how theory created. They said, that's a theory. No. What is theory today? Theory is when two players played and one of them made a new move, and that's it. That becomes theory until someone else will make better move. So you may be someone else. I was someone else many times because I spent hundreds of hours analyzing. That's why you don't see me anymore in tournaments. Thank God. So now let's look at one position that is also very well known in theory. Knight c3, bishop b4, knight f3, c5, g3. Actually, we can get this position through different move order. G3, c takes d, knight takes d4, knight e4, queen d3, and queen a5. This position for some time was evaluated as better for white. After bishop to g2, knight takes c3, actually bishop takes to g2 is not a good move. So in this position, knight b3 is correct move, attacking black's queen. And correct response for black is knight takes c3. Now this is very well known for people who play this opening, very well known variation. Now if white takes the queen, then position is totally equal because of knight e4 check, and on king d1 knight takes f2, so white has to play bishop d2, bishop takes d2, queen takes d2, knight takes d2, king takes d2. This is totally equal position. That's not of any interest for us. We are not interested in it. So, well, white has to be a lot more ambitious. Remember, on higher levels, when you play, if white does not get advantage in the opening, variation is not good. Well, some people on lower level, they think, okay, if I get equal position with white, that's okay too. That's not okay, because when you play with white, and if you don't get an advantage, next game in the tournament, you're going to be black. And believe me, your opponent is going to try to squeeze the most out of the opening. So you're going to have one game with slight advantage you're supposed to have, the next one you're going to have with slight disadvantage. So white plays for advantage now. Now, knight takes knight b3, bishop d2, knight takes c3, and knight b3. Knight b3, knight takes c3. Now, in this position is black's move. White just played bishop d2. White did not take black's queen. They played bishop d2. Knight e4, black's best move. And white's best response in this position is queen takes e4. Bishop takes d2 or d5. Now, this position is very important for final evaluation. So we can play bishop takes d2, knight takes d2, knight c6, bishop g2, and castle. Now, white has to castle also, but they cannot castle yet because the knight is hanging on d2. So, white plays queen e3 first. Now we can go d5 or b6. d5, castle, d4, queen d3, and e5. This position is double-edged. Now, this is another example for you. It's like a raw food. Position is here. It's not cooked yet. One side wants to do this and this. A3, B4, knight C4, knight D6. Get an advantage. So, how you slice it? This is way to play for white, and this is the way to play for black. Now, it's double-edged position. Now, if you are ambitious, that you really believe that white is better here, you have to work and try to develop it, but try to do the best for black too. This is my next chapter I'm working on, and this is actually very, very interesting position where both sides can develop initiative, very strong initiative. And white has clear plan, and so is black. Now, the execution of this plan and accurate play and precise execution is the secret to the final evaluation of this position. That's the position to start analyzing from. And there are many, many positions, countless positions in chess where you can start analyzing from, and theory is not going to give you all the answers because theory is developing every day. Why don't you become part of it and try to help the theory and try yourself. That's a good way to improve in your become much better player in the opening and much better overall player. Thank you very much.